What do you do when a part of you refuses to talk back and just resists everything you try? Most of us see resistance as a barrier, something frustrating to push through. But if you take away the shame and blame and approach it with openness and curiosity, I'm willing to bet that your whole outlook on resistance will change. Case in point, my client John. John is in his 50s. He came to me with CIDP, CIRS, long COVID, POTS, chronic pain and fatigue, multiple chemical sensitivities, and food sensitivities. John said he was fully bought into nervous system work and was able to see the benefits of using this approach. In our sessions, he was responding very well. However, in between sessions, he wasn't able to do the work assigned to him, like working with his parts or practicing gratitude. Clearly, there was some resistance somewhere, and it needed to be addressed if progress was going to happen. This is how the rest of our session unfolded. John said, I have tried sitting down with my action plan. I do it too, but it feels very forced. Something inside me is resisting it. I've tried to listen to it, but it doesn't say anything. I've tried to show it how important this work is, but nothing seems to help. I'm feeling so frustrated. So I invited John to explore this resistance using parts work. I asked him to focus on this part and notice what comes up: words, images, feelings, or bodily sensations. John said he felt the presence of a teenager part we had worked with once before, the Mr. Know It All. I asked John, as you are noticing it, how do you feel toward this part? And John replied immediately, frustrated. I encouraged John to ask the frustration to step aside for just a few minutes. It is obviously there to protect you and warn you. Let it know you value it, but if it's willing to step aside for a few minutes, you'd like to understand this resistance part. When frustration stepped aside, John was able to see the resistance part pacing, wanting to escape. It didn't want to engage in a conversation. It just wanted John to leave it alone. We had met this part once before, when John helped it escape and calm down using food and presence. This context is very important because in that moment, my gut told me that helping this part escape again wasn't a good idea. This part was a teenager. Teenagers often think they know what's best, and they resist any advice or structure that doesn't match their own thinking. But as we all know, teenagers also need redirection and life lessons from adults. John had already tried redirection. He had tried to show the part why this work was beneficial. But because the part wasn't talking back to him, I felt that empathy was the missing link here. This part needed to be heard. So I guided John to connect with this part through empathy. I said, we only try to escape when we come across something painful and difficult. This part must be going through a hard time. John nodded. This part is frustrated for having to do this work, but I'm trying to tell him why it's important. I stopped John gently. Expressing frustration does not mean this part does not want to do the work. It just means it's annoyed about having to do it. He's not saying no, he's just expressing his pain. This clicked for John. He said, that's a very good point. I didn't think about it this way. I responded, if it feels right, let this part know that you get its frustration. It is awful that you both have to fight so hard for your health. It's unfair. You have to do the hard work, and that too at the lowest point of your physical and mental capacity. John's face softened. It's interesting you said that. I have beaten aggressive cancer before. I almost lost my life. But this feels so much harder than that. I said, let this part know that. You see its hardship. You see the struggle. If there was any other way, you'd gladly take it. John said, this resistance seems more relaxed, but I still get the sense he does not like me. And I said, that's perfectly okay. You don't have to like each other to work together. You can be annoyed at each other and still share the same goal. You care about him. That's why you're here today. You want to reduce his pain and struggle because his well being matters to you. He can be grumpy all he wants, John said. He likes to be in control. I'm not sure why. I said, that makes a lot of sense. This level of control is a survival response. It makes us feel safe when everything else is spinning out of control. It also tells me you likely did not have safety in people around you at the time. This part had to step up because no one else would. Does that make sense? John responded, absolutely. I had to figure out my whole life on my own. I said, so this part has helped you stay in control and figure out your life. Do you see its role? Yes. Thank you for this. I feel much more open to working with this part now. This session was a big first step for John and his resistance part. They went from feeling frustrated with each other to John finally understanding why this part was so resistant, rigid, and in control. Resistance isn't always a wall to break down, it can be a doorway to inner wounds and healing if we approach it with curiosity and compassion. And here's the reminder: honoring a part does not mean agreeing with everything it says or does. It means empathizing first, then gently guiding and redirecting. But that shift only happens when we stop trying to win the argument and start listening to the pain points of our parts. How do you work with your resistant parts? Let me know in the comments below.